Godzilla Minus One debuted last year and was quickly hailed as the monster franchise's best installment yet. Today I, a non-Godzilla fan, am going to examine this claim. Greetings, Designing Hollywood, movie fans, and beyond. I am your host, Oliver Ricketts. Something you may not know about me is that I hate the idea of monsters. I'm terrified of it. Not monsters under the bed, but more city-decimating, land-destroying monsters. What they would call in Japanese cinema, Kaiju. Just the concept of being stuck in an urban area while a dinosaur is stomping through downtown. Where would you go? What would you do? It's like a tidal wave or an earthquake, except it's more fun to think about because it will never happen. The concept of giant monsters existing in real life would be enough to instill fear and anxiety in me. Another thing you may not know about me is that I love to be scared. I love horror movies, Halloween, haunted houses, the opportunity to feel an emotion like fear, but doing it in an environment that you know is safe is so much fun. And that's why I find giant monster movies so frustrating. For years, I've cited that the only kaiju movie that actually works for me on every level is actually an American film. And that film is Cloverfield. This found footage monster movie handles a kaiju incident from the ground level. What do the people going through this incident feel? And how do they handle this crisis? Who would you go back for? And because of the way Cloverfield is handled, you feel that fear and anxiety that I, a cinema adrenaline junkie, am chasing. But unfortunately, movies like Cloverfield are few and far between. And that's frustrating because giant monster movies, in theory, should work for me every time. Many other giant monster movies practice overexposure, an over-reliance on crumbling skyscrapers, and too many screeching dinosaurs. But what's missing? 9 times out of 10, it's the human character that you actually care about. I want the guy on the ground, trying to process the world ending before his eyes. But instead, usually what we get is cartoonish human characters who exist as cannon fodder and people who are only in the story to die when King Kong climbs the Empire State Building. And funny enough, I think American Godzilla films are perhaps the biggest perpetrator of this cinematic crime. Cast your mind back to 2014. Gareth Edwards is coming off of his small-budget film Monsters and is about to take on Godzilla after the character's disastrous turn in 1998. Better yet, Bryan Cranston, fresh off of Breaking Bad, which is my favorite show of all time, is going to star in this movie as the human lead. The teaser hits and it is absolutely breathtaking. You're inside of a helicopter. The whole screen is shades of red and black, and you see 10 paratroopers about to jump out over some disaster, but you don't know what it is because you can only hear it. And as the chute opens in the helicopter and the paratroopers jump out, you see that they're not going in for the attack. They're fish in a barrel because they're diving in on Godzilla, maybe bigger than we've ever seen him before, viciously destroying Tokyo. Us, the audience, finally feels the adrenaline that the paratrooper must be feeling as he descends onto this giant lizard. And I could have taken this teaser as just a quick, short film and been completely satisfied. Unfortunately, Godzilla 2014 does not hit quite the same way. Admittedly, it's fun. I had a great time watching it in the theater, but we don't get any of that ground level fear and anxiety that this teaser promised us, viewing Godzilla as an unstoppable force of nature. Godzilla 2014 went on to start the franchise that we today call the Monsterverse, a series of 4 going on 5 movies, which includes Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, and soon the Godzilla x Kong team-up film. In this film series seems to be the only avenue that we're getting Godzilla in American cinema at this time. And for better or worse, the franchise is pretty much more of what I'm talking about. Big special effects and no characters that you can actually know by name. And sometimes it's fun. While Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters didn't work for me, I'd be a liar to tell you that I did not have an absolute blast watching Godzilla versus Kong. But that almost felt like a one and done. And walking out, I can't tell you I had this religious experience where I became a Godzilla fan. And so in December of 2023, when Godzilla Minus One first hit cinemas, I can't say that I was initially enticed. Even though the whole movie-going public was singing the movie's praises and calling it the best Godzilla film of all time, because the best film in a series that I don't really care for is still just a movie to me. On top of that, this is a Japanese language film, and while I have an open mind to all movies, I would be a liar to say that it being in a different language didn't make this a harder sell for me. But what I failed to understand as an outsider is that there's actually a major difference between American Godzilla and Japanese Godzilla. Because you see, there are so many sides of Godzilla that I wasn't aware of. He can be a force of nature and a source of terror as he tears down a city, or he can be a goofy cartoon character with a mini Godzilla son. The possibilities are literally endless with such a versatile character. And maybe it's the way they make movies, or just the fact that they've had more time with the character than we have, but Japan and Toho Studios seem like they're exponentially better at taking those different sides of the character and exploring them in different forms of media. From the man in the suit knocking over miniatures era, all the way up to the computer-generated monster destroying skyscrapers, Japan's roster of Godzilla films is just so much more extensive than the ones that come out of Hollywood. And this roster of films actually had some titles that really spoke to me. Specifically Shin Godzilla and of course the original 1954 Godzilla film. And now we can add one more film to the trilogy of perfect Godzilla movies.
Godzilla Minus One.
In Godzilla Minus One, Japan grapples with the aftermath of not only the nuclear fallout of World War II, but an attack from Godzilla that decimates the city of Ginza. Striving to rebuild amidst uncertainty, a group of scientists venture into unknown territory as they prepare for Godzilla's return, determined for it to be his last. And despite my initial reservations, I have to admit, I am so happy that I chose to see this movie in a movie theater. This is the kind of film that makes you feel in a way that only true cinema can. And it was hands down one of the best films that I saw last year. And I see a lot of movies. Because despite a somewhat inaccessible package, Godzilla Minus One is so rewarding. It's actually kind of strange that Godzilla is in this movie. It's like someone sat down and wrote this moving script about loyalty to one's duty, post-traumatic stress syndrome, building a family, legacy. And then when that script was done and the people reading it had tears in their eyes, those tears were wiped away and the writer said, you know what it really needs? A giant lizard in the second act that decimates the city of Ginza. And you know what? It sounds crazy, but he was absolutely right. This movie is such a happy medium between drama that looks into the characters' souls and big monster movie mayhem. It is not above having Godzilla turn around and knock a stadium over with his tail while the original 1950s theme song is playing, and it knows that that's fun. It acknowledges that and treats it with that kind of reverence. There's actually a sense of joy in watching the people run underneath Godzilla like ants. Godzilla throwing a subway car downtown comes with a sense of awe and wonder, and the filmmakers never shy away from this. They embrace it. But at the same time, it knows when to slow down and fill the movie with monologues about PTSD and how a soldier's war is not over when he comes home. And Godzilla never takes away from that. He's the drama and the catalyst to get these people to talk about these things, but he's never a distraction from what the movie is really about, which is the emotional journey that these characters are on. And I think it also goes to show that even though science fiction and fantasy films are sometimes looked down upon by certain critics, those genres can produce legitimate stakes and intelligent drama the same way that a romance movie or a crime thriller or any other mainstream genre can. At the Academy Awards in 2020, Parasite took home the prize for Best Picture. This was the first foreign language film to do this. And in his acceptance speech, director Bong Joon-ho dropped a pearl of wisdom that I still think about all the time. Once you overcome the 1-inch barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films. And of course, he's referencing American audiences and our tendency to only digest American, or at the very least, English-spoken films. But great films are coming out all the time from every part of the world, even from places far away from Hollywood. And I believe this is one of the most important functions of a movie like Godzilla Minus One. Some fans won't see Godzilla Minus One because it's in another language. But at the same time, I'm sure that Godzilla Minus One is many fans' first foreign language movie. But they've been brought in by the promise of this being the best Godzilla movie ever. And so a recognizable character or thing they love is in the movie and they don't want to miss that. But my hope is that once they were there, the magic of the movie was able to wash over them. Because it is daunting to have to read the movie for the first 20 minutes. But the movie is so good and the performances are so rich and the material is so great that after a while you forget that you're reading subtitles. You kind of forget that you're even watching a movie. This is just an experience that is happening to you. As for myself, Godzilla Minus One taught me a lesson about genres and franchises and not judging a movie by its cover because it's part of one. Godzilla Minus One is much closer to movies like Cloverfield that we talked about at the beginning of this video, where the human drama takes precedent, character is everything, and the monster rampage is just icing on the cake. And that's my favorite kind of monster movie. And folks, if you are the type of person that frequently finds themselves first in line for a movie like me, you're in the right place. Right here on the Designing Hollywood YouTube channel, I'll be doing reviews of the year's biggest and best movies, as well as deep dives celebrating some older films and examining why we love them. If you're a movie fan, you'll also want to check out the Designing Hollywood podcast, dedicated to celebrating all things movies, where we talk with industry professionals behind the scenes of films that you know and love. If you're a movie fan, you'd never want to miss it, so make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this video so we get recommended to you more. For Designing Hollywood, I'm Oliver Ricketts, and until next time, get out there and go see a movie.